In 15 years' time, are we still running containers?
Yeah. Hey, well, we got WASM here now,
Uh,
or WASI,
Exactly, yeah.
edge computing and stuff, really small
Yeah.
apps. Is that going to take over from containers? Very good question.
Different opinion, different statement. I didn't even put it as a banner. Maybe I should. Maybe I should put it as a banner. I'll quickly. Well, no, I won't put it as a banner. But what I would say that a lot of the containerized solutions are containerized because we have a solution. We want more scalability. We want to be more dynamic. But we resort to containerizing because we did not maintain our technical debt.
Potentially, yeah. It's a tricky one because, like, some technical debt obviously will actually stop you from going into containers as well. But there are examples out there where you might have a Windows app, IIS, app, and you've got some technical debt, and to rewrite the whole thing to get it to work in the newer technology, it's going to be a lot harder, to get into the new .NET 10 or whatever, than just whacking it in a container and running it in AKS, not ACA, because that doesn't support Windows containers, or maybe even App Service, because they do support Windows containers. So technical debt, in a way, yes, but some also blocks it.
Yeah, I agree. To give an example, so let's say you're going to be more native to Azure than microservices. You would so start using function apps and logic apps and what else? So I think containers are also popular within the development community or within software architects because I still can do what I could do when I was just running on VMs, for example. Let's say I have a Linux VM or a Windows VM. I could still call local disk, local storage, local services, or features of the operating system. When you go to more PaaS or even function as a service, you lose some of those features. So a container also, it gives you more flexibility, but it also gives you the opportunity to still use the features of the operating or part of the operating system.
Yep. Yeah, it can do for sure.
I would say that's maybe it's maybe it's a bit of a bold statement, but I would say that's why a lot of companies choose for containerization as well.
Yeah.
But then, okay, so not everything needs to be a container.
No.
But
I want it to be because I love them. And it makes my life easier. But no, they shouldn't be.
Oh no, I think if you're redefining your software architecture from scratch and you're going to build something that needs to be extremely scalable and it's not going to be one or two features, so you would probably need more containers, then it's worth it. And then if you truly develop in a cloud native way and use the cloud native ecosystem like CNCF, the answer will never be no. If you need something, you can go above and beyond. I think it's amazing. Not always the answer, but it's great. So you being you, let's say I have a container or containers. They should always run an AKS.
That's a very good question. You're like proper baiting me here. My heart is saying yes, always in AKS, but sometimes, and even with the new feature of AKS Automatic with the system hosted node pools and that, sometimes for certain applications, it may be better to actually oh God, I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's getting stressed now. Running Azure Container Apps. There's certain instances, do not snip that, do not quote that again, but there are certain instances that Azure Container Apps would be a better fit for a container application. Maybe it's a monolithic container rather than full, true microservices, it's cheaper basically than AKS because you have to have the system node pools and everything like that. Once you start to grow, you will probably grow out of ACA and need AKS, but there is a small, very small place for ACA.
I was checking if I had a copy of our book here that we wrote a couple of years ago, where
yes, it's over there somewhere.
Basically, we stated that in the end, everything will end up in AKS, regardless where you start.
I still believe that.
Yes, I also have. I should have prepared this specific image and look it up, because we had a slide about 2 years ago where we did a session at the Microsoft Office webinar. And then the statement was, or your statement was, ACA is AKS for preschoolers.
Yeah, I still stand by that. ACA is AKS for preschoolers. You know, it's a brilliant tool to get you into the world of containers. With AKS Automatic, I think ACA won't be needed as much because you have the concept of, I have a Git repository. I have no Docker file, no Kubernetes manifest. AKS Automatic can create all of that for you based on reading your actual repository. It creates all of the GitHub actions to deploy it to your repository too. And with AKS Automatic, you don't need that managed. You have the managed node pool for your system, so that's included in the cost of it. So you don't have to manage that. You don't have to worry about updates and stuff like that because it's all taken care of it for you. All you're paying is the fee for it and the compute costs, which I think is quite nice. And you know, because it uses node auto provisioning, in theory, the compute cost should be relatively cheap.
All right. Yes, and I still stick to the statement that we made a couple of years ago that in the end you will end up in a maybe not if it's just one container, but if you're actively building a solution and you embrace like a more microservices kind of architecture, you start with one container, you end up with 2, 3, 4, 5. At some point, you will outgrow whatever you were using and having to go to AKS, and especially what you said, it can also be very cost effective to move to AKS. So let's say then the solution runs in AKS. So we have a container, it runs in AKS. So yes, everything is a container, and yes, all the containers run in AKS. So some of it. What if would I then only use AKS? Would I also use other Azure resources, or does it mean, because if you say everything should be a container, well, we already decided not everything should be a container, but we're mainly talking about the software architecture here and the solution itself. But what if I need a database? What if I need storage? What if I need a key store? What if I need a firewall? Or should everything always run in AKS, or is AKS just the solution that runs the workload?
So that's a very good question. Now, it all depends on your requirements.
That's such an IT answer.
I know.
All depends.
It always depends. So my personal best practice is do not run persistent applications, as in applications that require persistent storage inside AKS. So this includes databases and that. Now, this is me because I've been burnt in the past. It's a lot better than it used to be with the CSI drivers. The Azure storage for containers version 2 is a lot better than it used to be as well. But well, also back in the past, you couldn't even have zone redundant storage either, whereas now you can, which is also a benefit. I've personally done it, and I've been bitten in the past. I ran RabbitMQ inside an AKS cluster for quite a few years. Issues happened, you know, trying to get it all to come back, and you don't lose any of your core MQs and stuff. You know, sometimes the pods were taking ages to come back out because of the storage, again, because zonal disks weren't here. So I've been bitten in the past. I always say use a PaaS service first. Always use PaaS if you can. So you put your databases in MySQL Flexible Server or Azure SQL or something like that. Use Azure Service Bus if you can, rather than RabbitMQ. But then also use tools like Dapr, so you can actually change between these ones. So maybe in dev, you're running a self-hosted RabbitMQ cluster in your AKS cluster. It's dev. You don't care if the data gets lost or corrupted or it's down for a bit longer. But in production, you're using Service Bus because it's Azure PaaS and there's no RabbitMQ offering from Azure natively. There are marketplace offerings from like Cloud AMPQ. But then using Dapr, you can actually just change your manifest file to your XML file inside Dapr to say, right, go for dev, we're going to use this one. For production, we're using Service Bus, and you don't need to change your application code. So does everything need to run in a container? No. If it's got storage, use PaaS. But also, I'm going to keep going on here. Now, if you want to look at multi-cloud, sovereign clouds, and stuff like that, maybe you do want it all running in the cluster, and you're okay with the risk with that. And that's why it's depends.
Yeah, it depends. And for people watching, listening, Dapr is a runtime, like an intermediate piece of software where you write software and you tell your software or you tell your container, this is where you have a key value store, this is where you have a database, and you talk to Dapr, and then Dapr talks to either whatever you configure it for. So it's giving you the option to switch in the backend.
It's like a HTTP endpoint, REST endpoint. So you talk to it in a standard format, no matter where you're going to, which makes it importable between the different systems.
Yeah. If I'm just going to put it up here, Dapr.io.
Yeah. I really like it.
Oh, there you go. All right. So, and this also touches up on what I said, or my statement regarding technical debt. So, for example, let's say you do need persistent storage for logging because you have a Linux container and it writes to a local log file and you need access to that log file. Problem being, containers are stateless, so restarts, log file is gone because it's temporary. Then what you could do is attach storage and you mount it into the container. So you have persistent storage, which can either be, it can be a disk, can be a storage account, an Azure file share. That's what I mean with technical debt, because ideally you don't write logging to a local file inside a container because it's supposed to be stateless. That's a good example of technical debt. Moving on, I'm an advocate for this being true. Yeah,
I always see Windows containers as a stepping stone into the world of cloud native technology. It buys you some time, so you can rewrite your application into .NET Core and Linux and stuff, where you will get the better experience in Kubernetes.
Yeah, I agree. I think Windows containers are not very efficient. I think the container images are way too big. And it goes against the reasons why I would use a container. It's stateless, it's fast, it restarts quickly. I can fail forward, but well, if I make a mistake with the Windows container, I need to redeploy one and pull a new container image, then it takes some time. Even with the latest technologies on speeding up image pulling and all that, still never going to be as fast as a Linux container. Also, Linux can be completely stripped down with as few dependencies as possible, also lowering the security footprint. So, yes, Windows containers should be temporary, but I also see that people move to Windows containers, or they containerize their solution, which is fine. All right, so it's running in the Windows containers now. Let's leave it like that for now.
Yeah, I see that quite a lot too.
Yeah,
it should never ever happen.
No, it's yeah. But well, to be fair, if you would ask me like 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, probably, is Windows containers a good idea? I would say stay away from them. Steer clear. Don't do it. But Microsoft did catch up on developments and they did modernize Windows itself to be more suitable for containers. That is true.
Yep. Yeah, they have done an amazing job actually trying to bring it feature parity with Linux. Obviously, I don't think it ever will be because they're totally two different operating systems. But it is good. Now we're talking about Windows. I want to ask you: should you run virtual machines in Kubernetes? Because
I would say Kubefert. I would say. Well, I did a demo on this about a year ago, I think, in Cloud Native Weekly. Should you or should you not? I would say, why not?
That's good.
But here goes.
It's better than it depends.
Yeah, it depends. So, well, it does depend on your philosophy on why you're using Kubernetes. Let's say you do everything on Kubernetes. And I'm not even talking about AKS, just Kubernetes.
Yep.
Everything is running in there, or you need a cloud or data center or something agnostic. It needs to be agnostic. Then if you're doing Kubernetes and you're doing VMs in a public cloud or in a data center, that's two platforms you manage. If you're doing the majority of things on Kubernetes and you do everything with Helm charts, manifests, YAML, why not
Maybe
VMs too? GitOps. Why not VMs too? You can run a VM in Kubernetes. You can manage it in Kubernetes. It's really not that difficult to do so. It would be the same question. Why we ran VMs in VMware back in the day in data centers? Why not run them in Kubernetes?
And VMware was just an orchestrator for your virtual machines. Kubernetes is an orchestrator for containers. Why can't it orchestrate your virtual machines as well? Do I see a lot of people going down that route? I personally don't, but I think there's quite a big following on Kubevert and quite a few starters. And I've even seen in the AKS Git repository in the issue tracker, there's even comments about, questions, should we support Kubevert better and stuff like that. So, maybe 2026 could be the year of VMs on Kubernetes. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, maybe not.
Maybe not.
But no, but I do see a big use case there. Yes.
I think it could be really good for like application testing and stuff like that as well. You want a quick VM to do an application test, do UI testing or whatever, spin it out, playwright on it, bang, done, nice, out of the way, and that could even be part of your AI workflow when you're developing your applications now.
When we did the demo about a year ago, I did two demos. We did two sessions, actually, 2 times. Then we had the 10 minutes in tech, so we did twice 10 minutes on Kubefert. And the first one, I was just joking about why would you run a VM on Kubernetes, and then we had it running, and we were thinking, well, why not? This is actually pretty flexible, and why not? So so that's my answer. Why not? Why would you not do that? No, that's my final answer. I do know that prepping your distribution and solution to run in a container can be troublesome, but I mean we're more than a year now down the road. Yeah, I see a use case there. But
what I think I would like to see is maybe Kubevert have a library of images like you have in Azure. You can go and pick any image you want. Maybe Kubevert could have a library of images they host ready for you to go living in a container registry. Maybe that's something. Maybe they do that already. I don't know. I've not looked, but
I'm checking because it's been a year since I touched it.
I would like to see. And then, like maybe it could be a marketplace where people could have their applications, maybe like even firewall applications that live inside VMs could be running inside these VMs on your Kubernetes cluster. Just an idea. I don't know. It might work or not.
Yeah, it's for those interested. It's kubevert.io, by the way.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Yeah, that's Well,
so I think I was one of the first ones to mention the magic word of AI, and we probably should cover some of that as well, and not just Kubernetes.
AI. Yeah, well, I like talking about Kubernetes.
Yeah, me too. But AI is the hot thing at the moment.
Yeah, I've got an opinion on A lot of the AIs. I love it, by the way. I like experimenting with it. I like building agents. I automated parts of my personal life using AI. In fact, the other day I did book a restaurant using ChatGPT.
Very nice.
I was so you can tell it to like, hey, do this, do that, and then it's actually running a browser session, and it gave a pop-up in the chat window, in the prompt window. It's like, all right, can you click this to acknowledge that I'm not a robot? And I clicked it, and I asked it, all right, so book a restaurant for me, this name, this address, this time, my phone number, because that's the information that you need to give. And I put that in, and it started searching the website. It couldn't find a booking page, but then it found a widget, so it used it, it booked it. And I checked my email, and it said registration or thank you for your registration. It was confirmed. My reservation was confirmed. Yeah, so that was pretty impressive. Like, I'm thinking that was
would it have been quicker to just go to the website yourself and paste? Yeah.
Yes, but let's say you build an agent and you give it the information of your favorite restaurants, and it's done it before, and you give it the right prompts and instructions.
Yeah. Hey,
then I could just go book me a restaurant for tonight.
You could even give it access to your calendar, so when it knows anniversary is coming up, it knows your favorite restaurant, and it will automatically book it for you, so you don't forget.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just automated Valentine's Day. Cool.
Yeah.
So
which is coming up next month.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's next month.
Just to remind everyone.
Yeah. I usually figure that out a day before. Nice. All right. So yeah, I'm a big fan of AI, but I also see it going wrong here and there. And then there's two. So you've got productivity AI, like automation, LLM assisted coding, all that. And then you have building AI into your solution, as in enhancing your software with AI, and specifically agents. But let's start with the productivity parts first.
Yeah. I love vibe coding. I do it all the time. Being an IT infrastructure background, not being the best programmer, it has made my life so much easier, because I've had all these ideas of applications that I would want to build to make my life easier as an infrastructure guy, and I've never been able to until now. So I love vibe coding. Yes, it does probably create technical debt if someone else was going to use it. For myself, it's fine.
Yeah, I use it a lot too. I love it, but I do feel you need to understand. You need to have a understanding of what's happening, and then it's very efficient. It makes you more productive.
Oh yes.
But let's give you an example. Let's say I have a customer, and that customer has a question on okay, can you automate this for me? And I go to my vibe coding tool. I use VS Code and Copilot, and I give it some prompts. It generates the solution. I partially understand what's happening, maybe not. It writes it in a language that I rarely use or never used before, and none of my colleagues understand that language. That's a problem. Yeah, because that means when I run out of credits or whatever, I can no longer maintain the solution. But also, if my colleague does not have Copilot, or it's we still need to adhere to best practices when it comes to coding.
Yeah.
And who's to say that for every language vibe coding does that? So you need that understanding, or you will rack up technical debt quickly.
So what you're saying is maybe you need an agents file or an instructions file to say, this is my coding best practices. Ensure you adhere to it at all times. Maybe even build a linting agent afterwards, after what it's done. But going back to that, like, I build most of my stuff in PowerShell because I love PowerShell. I understand PowerShell, and it's saving me so much time. But sometimes you need a bit of JavaScript if you're going to do some kind of static web app and stuff. Yeah. Now, I can understand JavaScript enough to read it, but I can't write it. I can understand what it's doing and everything like that. And so for me as a vibe coder, I've even done a bit of PHP now with WordPress plugins and stuff like that. I know enough that when the AI brings something back, I can check it and say, that's not going to do what I want. And I think that's the bit that's missing from people who are doing vibe coding, is you need to not just blindly follow what the AI says and does, because it does make mistakes. It's not perfect. It may have interpreted what you were trying to say in your message because you've written it badly for it to understand your prompt, and it might come back with something totally different. Like today, for example, in my lunch, I was trying to make a change to this new product I'm trying to build for the CNCF ecosystem to help keep up to date with releases and stuff. And I wanted, instead of just normal cards on the screen, I wanted hexagonals, and I gave it a picture. I thought, this is going to be brilliant and everything, kind of like Wesley's tiles in the background, but with information inside them. And did it deliver that? Absolutely not. It was shocking because it went off and interpreted what I was trying to do totally wrong. You know, I looked at the code and I thought, oh yeah, this, I can see this building hexagons and that. Let me preview it and see what it's like. And it's like, yeah, no, this isn't right. No. So you always have to constantly check it.
And it's the prompting is important here. It's but I also, so back to those standards. If you do vibe coding or AI assisted coding or whatever word or whatever you want to call it, if you're doing that, I would say you need to have those standards and those checks with agents throughout your process. So if you're doing it, so let's say you have that agent file that says these are your orders, this is what you do, you cannot break out of these boundaries, these are the standards, adhere to this. You want to have the same in your GitHub Copilot agents. So when you do a pull request, it has the same instructions, it controls the same standards, it will block if you know, I think that's the way to do it. That's the safe way to do it.
Yeah.
And if that's how we do it, then I think it's perfectly fine. But if it's just a cowboy writing code and not adhering any standards or not understanding software architecture or standards, then that's a problem. And that will also be a problem when you start troubleshooting it in 2 years' time, for example.
And do you know what? This doesn't even just go to software. This goes to writing documentation, writing infrastructure as code and stuff like that as well. Like, you know, sometimes you can tell the AI use the Azure verified modules. It will go and use the Azure verified modules. It will use a really old one, or it will make up a version and make up bits and pieces. Even when you're telling it to use the Bicep MCP server or the Azure MCP server, it still makes mistakes. So you always need to be on top and check, and not just next, finished.
And I also think that there's going to be a point where right now we just keep prompting. We keep asking it questions and do this, do that. We keep asking it. There's a certain level of skill to prompting to be efficient in your prompts. And this will matter at some point, because now let's enable every feature. Let's you get a Copilot, you get a Copilot, you get an agent, you can prompt, you can get the preview to Claude 4.5, you get everything. At some point, someone's going to worry a bit about costs. And that's when you need to be more efficient in your prompting. Because I do not believe that the amount of prompts we send in the world currently is covering, and what we get in return is not covering the cost that we spend on AI currently. So there's going to be, we need a change. We need a shift in the mindset there at some point, which will happen. I think at some point, organizations, even like Intercept, where we work, and where we're doing the show from, at some point, companies like us will need to do token management or monitor the use of tokens. Right now, you get a Copilot subscription and go ahead. And then, but at some point, you need to start monitoring that, because pricing money at that, I think the billing model will change at some point.
I can see that happening.
We can already see that when you use a service like Azure OpenAI Services, right? You pay for the tokens that you use. So token management is a thing, and I think for the productivity part, the Copilots, that will be a thing. Yeah,
I can see that. Now, I'm going to change subject a tiny bit, AI, and bring these two subjects together because we actually have a question in YouTube. So it says, for Kubernetes, is there such a thing as smart AI scheduling instead of taints, tolerations, affinities, etc.? Now, I don't know of any. I'm not sure I would trust it at the moment, to be honest with you. We got Carpenter with Node Auto Provision, which uses rules based in Azure to pick which VMs to use. And I personally think that's probably a better solution. And this also goes on to a next question as well that I was going to ask Wesley is, do you always need AI? Can rules actually be enough? Like standard automation be more effective than using AI for everything? But let's answer this one first.
I don't know if I would start scheduling pods using AI just yet. I don't think the models are built and trained for that. I think what comes closest currently is Holmes GPT, but it's more like your on-call AI agent, so to help you troubleshoot and monitor.
That could be a good improvement though for Holmes.
I think Holmes GPT would be the solution that can be built to do it. Because as far as I've seen, that's the only current solution that actually comes back with good information regarding Kubernetes.
Yeah, and I also noticed Nathan, who's the CEO of Robusta, who created it. It's a CNCF project now as well. He actually shared some LinkedIn posts where it was helping you get your cost analysis of your Azure resources as well, and AWS resources. So it's not just Kubernetes. Because of the extensibility of AI using your MCP servers and stuff, it's like you can do so much more with I think I might suggest this to Nathan to see what he says.
I think that, but I don't know of any current solution that does this, and nor would I trust any current solution, probably because the scheduling itself it's complex. It's it sounds simple, but the options you have and the variables, I don't
know. And that goes to the next question. Is AI always needed for everything? Standard automation, it could be a better fit. Standard rules could be better as well.
I agree, and I would say you don't always need, and I'm talking about agentic AI, you don't always need agents too. So, for example, very easy, simple example, if I want to stop and start a VM every day at a specific time, then I would still resort to PowerShell and automation, Azure Automation. But why?
Or Logic App.
Or Logic App. I do not need AI for that.
Get a OpenAI scheduled task, Copilot scheduled task to stop and start a VM, please.
Yeah.
The token usage.
And let's also talk about the risks. Let's say, so I think that the next version of automation is AI-powered automation, which is essentially agents doing the work for you. But then you have a workforce of agents. You need to configure them very well. You need to give them very clear instructions because you don't want them to wander off and do something. Because I give an agent context, right? You have access to this. You are sandbox, but you have access to that, or you can call that API. You can call that API. Adding more agents to that fleet means I need to do agent management very well. And I always need to be aware of what each agent can do, because if they can call each other, they can probably use each other's features. And do I want that one agent to also be able to access Azure indirectly in some, right? AI becomes smarter and smarter. At some point, it becomes very difficult to troubleshoot your automation if it's done with agents.
Yeah.
Because and troubleshooting automation is already complex. Something breaks down. We usually, we're getting better at this, but back in the day, you would just automate something and then automate the next bits and pieces and keep automating. And at some point, you have like a very big chain of automation.
Yeah.
And if something broke down,
monolithic automation engine.
Monolithic automation. And at some point, you need something breaks, and you need a day to find out where it broke. If those were all agents, each step would be an agent, that would like increase the complexity of troubleshooting significantly.
Yeah, I guess you got distributed login systems then as well, each agent, which would then summarize back to your main process potentially, but it may not summarize everything that is done. You may miss things, so you have to then go look at logs in multiple places again, which could be interesting. And then we've got a few minutes left. Do you think, and this is probably the last one, this year will be the year where we are running a team of agents? Our jobs are basically agent wranglers.
I think we'll get to that. I think, and let's not, joke about it, because everyone's saying, no, AI will not replace people. And I'm not talking about Intercept, but in the world, AI will replace a lot of people or a lot of people's jobs at some point. Not saying that that's because of development or it could be anything. So back to your question, yes, I think we will manage an AI workforce or an agent workforce at some point this year for recurring tasks that A, are probably boring, and B, nobody wants to do.
Yep.
And C, you probably don't want to need people to do it. So I think, yes, it will scale. It will help you scale, but we will not replace people like completely. I think roles will change. You will become like your HR agent officer or something. Maybe that will be a thing in the future.
Nice. Could you imagine?
Yes. Yeah, I think that yes. And there's a statement I made that I think this year this will be true. AI agents will perform day-to-day Azure management activities.
Nice.
Yeah, and we already see it in monitoring solutions, do we not? Where normally you would go. Good example. I've been working here for over 11 years, and when we started, we started selling managed services at Intercept. We would write a document, like we've done a visit on site, and then we would write a document. Hey, the backup is okay. This is okay. We found this, and that. This was then at some point replaced by automation. You automatically export all the information from Azure. Hey, did all the backups succeed, etc. Blah blah. So that was first step, and then our job was not to export it, but to analyze the export and to give an interpretation on did the backup succeed, yes or no, and what was the problem. That interpretation will be done by AI, and we can already see that in some monitoring solutions where AI already does the interpretation for you. So the automation detects, hey, backup failed, AI interprets what happened, and now we're getting to a point where we have to validate the AI response and determine if it's good. And then we get to a level of trust where we will let it do this autonomously.
My biggest worry for this AI vision for companies like Intercept and other companies that will use it is the AI doesn't understand nuances of messages and text and stuff like that very well. So if you're going to go stick AI in your help desk solution to answer most of the easiest calls, you're probably going to end up upsetting some customers, maybe increasing your churn rate, because AI thinks it's fixed all the issues, the technical issues, but it hasn't actually understood the nuance of the situation where a customer success manager or an engineer could come in and actually make things better. So that's my biggest concern.
Pick up the phone and call the customer, which is probably, if there's ever a big problem at a customer and it's like P1 kind of things going on, nothing works better than picking up the phone or opening up Teams and calling the customer. It usually de-escalates half of it by just making a phone call. AI doesn't do that. So
not yet. Maybe soon.
Oh yeah, maybe it will in the future. I mean, AI can already.
To be fair, my phone actually does do screen calling for me and then summarizes the text. So it's coming there. But yeah, I guess with that, I've put a little banner at the bottom to say sign up for our newsletter, the Intercept Insights, where we share lots of information, kind of a bit like this, and other things, and retirements and issues and stuff like that. So, and obviously all of our workshops and the webinars that we have upcoming. So sign up for that if you haven't already. And thanks everyone for watching. Sorry about the issues at the start. And Wesley, it's awesome to be back with you doing this kind of thing.
It's
I'm
great.
really enjoying it. Yeah. And
Do
I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, I'll see you in a bit, but we'll see all of you next month. Thank you for joining, and
thanks everyone.
Have a good day.
Bye.